I saw a list of tight end breakout candidates for this season. Why was Donovan Green not listed?
You are Locked On Aggies, your daily podcast on the Texas A&M Aggies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome on into Locked On Aggies. I'm your host, Andrew Stefaniak. Thanks for making Locked On Aggies your first listen every single day. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about the tight end room, a little bit about people are sleeping on Donovan Green, and I don't know why. We're also going to talk about what's going on in the College World Series, who is Texas A&M going to play later today, what's going on there, updates, good or bad. We'll talk about all of that on today's show. But first, I want to discuss this list I saw. And it listed tight end breakout candidates for this college football season. And nowhere did I ever see a mention of Donovan Green. Now, here's the reality here, and it's the unfortunate reality. Had Donovan Green not gone down with that injury, the ACL tear heading into last season, he wouldn't be listed as a breakout candidate this year because he would have already broken out. And, I think that I just saw a video yesterday. It was a pretty cool video. It was like a Joe Burrow edit, and it said, Alabama wanted me as their third string quarterback. And I said, you must not know who I am. I don't think people know who Donovan Green is yet. I think that Donovan Green, came in 2 years ago and put up numbers that had people really excited for last year, me included. I love the way he plays. I think he's physical. He's quick enough to help you out in the receiving game. He can block. I'd say he's more obviously receiving tight end than a blocking tight end, but he can do it both. Great frame. I think Donovan Green is going to absolutely break onto the scene this year for Texas A&M. So, and he wasn't listed as a breakout candidate. And I think that's a little crazy. But I mean, hey, the way I look at it is like this. Take a positive away from it and say, well, maybe this means that against Notre Dame, the game plan for Donovan Green won't be huge, and we can maybe get some footballs to him in some plays and some situations that had they game plan for him, we wouldn't have been able to do. So I think that is a positive takeaway from something like this. But I think the other key to remember is, as good as I think Donovan Green is as a player, regardless, I think that what Coach Klein is going to be able to do for him to elevate his game is going to be through the roof. We have discussed this like a broken drum here at Locked On Aggies, as you everydayers know, but, Coach Klein loves utilizing tight ends, getting the football to tight ends, blocking with tight ends. He put that kid last year from Kansas State, Sinat, I think was his name. I forgot where he ended up getting drafted, but, Coach Klein put a really solid tight end in the NFL. And once again, I don't think he's going to have any issue succeeding with some of the tight ends on this roster. You got some really talented guys. And that's the best part about this room and this position group as a whole is, while I think Donovan Green has a massive, massive season coming, I think that you have a ton of guys on this roster who are serviceable, really good tight ends. And once again, it's something we discuss all the time here at Locked On Aggies, but we always say, do we talk about the importance of having depth and having talented depth? You need to have players to where if somebody gets banged up, if somebody gets hurt, you have a player who can come in and step right in, and hopefully the drop off isn't massive. And I think once again, that's the tight end. That's the case for the tight end room here for Texas A&M. I think last year, Jake Johnson was really good in his moments. I think he made some great plays last year, but I think Donovan Green is just as good as Jake Johnson, if not a little bit better. Probably a little bit better, because don't forget, Jake Johnson was a highly ranked, really good recruit. But I think Donovan Green is going to have this massive season. I mean, I think he very well could put up the numbers that we saw Sanat put up last year at Kansas State, which means let's pull those up. So last year for Coach Klein and Kansas State, Sanat had 676 receiving yards and 6 touchdowns on 49 receptions. You will take that all day long. Sanat is now with the Washington Commanders, and he went in the second round, pick 53. Point here being, once again, I talked about the Klein effect, the Coach Colin Klein effect. It's a real thing for tight ends. He's going to put talented tight ends in the NFL, and he's going to use his position group well at Texas A&M. So I think it's going to benefit Donovan Green. But you've got to remember, once again, you have a talented room as a whole. You, of course, went and got Trey Watson and Garrett Miller from the portal. You went and got Calhoun from the portal more recently. So you've got 3 portal tight ends who are older players who can come in and give you experience. Some of these guys better at blocking, some better at pass catching, but all of them are solid tight ends who continue to once again make this position group really solid, make this position group deep. And that depth is the concern that I always talk about. You got to have it. Let's say Green gets banged up one week and has to miss a game. Well, you got Garrett Miller, you got Trey Watson, you got Calhoun. Those are just the transfers. You still got Theo, and you've got Jaden Platt, who, ladies and gentlemen, I'll tell you this right now. I think that Jaden Platt is a little bit buried in a talented room with older players, knowing that these transfers are all pretty old, and Green's heading into his third year and obviously coming off the injury, but still been around for a while. I think Jaden Platt is going to be an absolute monster at some point in his career. I think there's a chance Donovan Green has himself a season to where he can go and be drafted this year. Not to say he won't come back. I still think that he's going to come back, obviously, for another season after this. But, if he has a Sanat type season, 49 catches, almost 700 yards, 6-7 touchdowns, whatever. Yeah, I think there's a chance that Green goes to the NFL. And if that happens, I think Jaden Platt is just going to step in and be another elite tight end. I think he's a really good player. I think he's got a ton of upside. So, looking at this room as a whole, I can't wait to see how Coach Klein does end up utilizing all of these talented players, because there are a ton of talented guys in this room as a whole. But I just feel really good about the depth and the talent you got in this room. I think this has got to be one of the deeper tight end rooms in the SEC, just knowing that you've got all these veteran transfers that have played a lot of college football, played a lot of tight end, and know what they're doing, know the speed of college football. So I don't think it's going to be a crazy difficult transition to the SEC, knowing these guys have been around for a while. But I'm excited about this room, ladies and gentlemen, and I think y'all should be too, because this room's talented, and Donovan Green is not getting the respect he deserves from the national media. And it makes sense. He was injured last year. He had a fine season the year before, but nothing crazy. He left a lot to be excited about, but nothing to where people should be like, oh man, this guy's going to be insane. So I get the lack of excitement. I mean, not excitement, but the lack of hype around Donovan Green. But I'll tell you this, I think people are going to really, really regret the lack of hype around Donovan Green when he has the massive season I believe he's going to have this year for the Aggies. So I had a discussion with our Locked On Gamecocks host yesterday. Plan to use that as a show here in the near future. But I kind of want to talk about, am I concerned? How concerned am I with some of these games that I've talked about? They're must-win games for the Aggies, but I haven't shared a ton of worry or concern about these games. We're going to talk about the 3 football games that fall under this category for me, And I'm going to talk about, do I have concerns? What are my concerns? We're going to run through all that coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. But first, I got to tell you about our friends over at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home that win. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. So, there are 3 football games that fall under this category that, y'all know, every day or know that I've broken down this schedule into multiple levels. I've kind of broken it down to the games that I'm really concerned about, the games that I'm not as much concerned about, the home games that are tough. I've broken this schedule down into layers here. And the 3 games that are on the road but have kind of fallen into my not too concerned about that game category are Arkansas, which is a neutral site game, Mississippi State, and South Carolina. So, I want to talk about my thoughts here because, you got to remember, there's no such thing as a gimme in the SEC, I'd say, except for Vandy. I think we can all agree on that. Mississippi State, I think, is going to be the worst of these 3 teams. I think their new coach has a chance to be a good coach in the future, but where he's building that roster from to where he's got to go, he didn't take over the roster that Mike Elko did. So he's going to be in a tougher spot, having to rebuild from, he's going to be rebuilding from a lower spot than Coach Elko had to do. So I just don't see that working out this season for Mississippi State. So I'm really not concerned about having to go play them on the road. I know there's cowbells, I know, but I just don't. That game is before the LSU game, and you're coming off a bye week as well. So you're going to have an opportunity to get yourself healthy, to get to feeling better, then play Mississippi State. I'm just not super concerned with that game, ladies and gentlemen. And once again, if you disagree with this, let me know in the YouTube comments. If you think I should be a little bit more concerned with this game, let me know. I'd like to hear y'all's thoughts and y'all's reasoning why. But I look at this football game and I say to myself, I don't see Texas A&M having any issue on the road against Mississippi State because I just flat out don't think they're going to be a good football team. I know it's a road game in the SEC, cowbells. There's going to be a lot going on there. I just am not a believer in that team this season. In the future, down the road, things could be different. Opinions could change. But right now, as we sit and speak, June 19th, 2024, I don't believe right now that I am concerned about that matchup with Mississippi State. I don't think they are going to be a good enough team to hang around. I'd say the next game then is probably Arkansas. They went and got that quarterback Green, I believe, from Boise State. So they've got an okay quarterback, a fine quarterback. I think that he has some upside. Obviously, Texas A&M is going to be winning the quarterback battle in that game, but I still think that this is a game where they could be okay. And then, you've got Petrino. I think you've got some players. You've got some solid players for over there at Arkansas. I think the wheels are going to come off this year for Pittman and that coaching staff. I am anxious to see what Coach Petrino is going to do offensively with no one in his ear, no one bothering him, no one griping at him, telling him do this, do that. I am anxious to see how good of a season he can have offensive coordinator wise. I talked about it last offseason. I said if Jimbo gives Petrino the wheels here, I think this he could be great. This offense could be great. We know who he is historically as a play caller. He's one of the best to ever do it. So could he be really good? The issue there is I just don't know if I believe that he's going to have the weapons and the personnel to really succeed. I don't know if I believe that. And that is something, I mean, you have to have the players around, and sure, he's going to elevate some of those players. He's going to make the roster better. He's going to make this team better. But can he really elevate it to a level where they're beating, teams that are better than them? And I believe Texas A&M is much better than Arkansas this season. And, with this being a neutral site game, I know it's been historically weird. I'm hoping that Texas A&M kind of just taking care of business last year, without much concern can help that narrative of, oh, this game's always weird, whatever, which is true, but I'm hoping we can get rid of that after what happened last year. So I would say that's the Arkansas game is the second game for me when it comes to levels of concern between these three games. I think, honestly, they've got a quarterback who can get the job done and a really good offensive coordinator. Aside from that, it's like, okay, nothing much else scares me there. And once again, I predict Texas A&M to go 3-0 in these games. But South Carolina, I think, is the most challenging. I think South Carolina, that their quarterback Sellers, who I believe has already been announced as a starter, which is, you don't see that often. But really, really high upside quarterback, dual threat guy. He, came in, I think he played a few snaps last year and left South Carolina fans really excited for what he might be able to do during his career as a starter. But, when it comes to environment, when it comes to talent, I think South Carolina is the most concerning game. You also are coming off that game against LSU. You're going to be sore. You're going to be banged up against, after hopefully beating a really physical LSU football team. So if once again, if I had to pick which of these three games I'm most concerned about, it would definitely be South Carolina number one. I think that South Carolina, listen, our Locked On Gamecocks host doesn't seem to think that Beamer might be kind of, a bad season away from the hot seat, but they have a killer schedule this year. I mean, they're right up there with Florida in how rough that schedule is. So, looking at this, I don't see how Beamer's not concerned a little bit about his job security, just knowing how challenging their schedule is. You win 5 games again, you don't get bowl eligible this year. The next year he's definitely, his behind's a little bit warm. So ladies and gentlemen, I'm not as concerned with these games as some might be. South Carolina, I'll be honest, I'm concerned about South Carolina. The other two, not as much, but I still think Texas A&M goes 3-0 in these games. And I think if you're Coach Elko and you want to start your tenure at Texas A&M with a bang, and you want to prove you can win games away from Kyle Field, these are great football games to win. And then, of course, the Florida and Auburn game as well. But that is kind of my concern level here. So let me know in the YouTube comments, rank those games for y'all based on concern, and just Be honest with me. How concerned are you with those games? Let me know. I'm curious to hear y'all's thoughts on that. We're going to talk a little bit about the College World Series, what's going on, who do the Aggies play. We'll break all that down coming up right here on Locked On Aggies. So who do the Aggies play today? I'll tell you. Oh, wait. We don't know yet. The Florida-Kentucky game that was supposed to happen last night got delayed because of some weather making its way through Omaha. Here, I'll be the weatherman real quick. Let's see what the weather looks like. It is 7:20 currently, and the weather in Omaha, Nebraska, is currently cloudy. It looks like there's going to be some clouds and some rainy conditions throughout the day. So we'll see how that works. But Texas A&M is going to be playing the winner of Florida, Kentucky. That game is supposed to be happening at 10. And it looks like, we got 20% chances of rain here. It looks like there might be a little rain in the area. Usually, if I had to put on my weatherman cap and take a guess, I would say that they get that game in on time and there's not much of a delay. So that game was supposed to be last night, of course, but there were supposedly some torrential downpours. And I'll tell you why I think this is a good thing for Texas A&M. Now whoever you play, Kentucky or Florida, and I think I'd rather play Florida. But whoever you play, they're going to have to have used bullpen arms today. They're going to have players who are going to be burned. Players who are going to be burned and going to be tired and not be able to throw in game 2, that maybe if you had, an evening to rest and ice and stuff like that, you'd be able to throw those players the next day. So, and then on top of that, just playing a doubleheader, anybody that's played, in Nebraska, it's going to be a little bit humid probably. It's not easy playing a doubleheader. You're going to be tired. You're going to be exhausted. So I think this benefits Texas A&M. Hey, listen, these players, they're going to sleep in, wake up whenever you want to wake up, go get some breakfast, get some fuel in you, and watch this game. You're going to play the winner of this game. They've got to beat you twice. All you have to do, let's say Kentucky wins, right? If Kentucky wins, you play them tonight. If you win, you move on to the final series. If you lose, you play them again tomorrow for the which would be like the winner take all for the final series. I'd rather play Florida. I have a feeling Kentucky's going to win this game, but it's going to be interesting. Florida is still hot. Florida's still playing good baseball. So it'll be interesting to see how this works out. But exciting day of baseball in Omaha. Excited to sit down and watch all these ball games. But yeah, looking at this, I definitely believe that you got to take away a pro here from this game being today at 10 for Kentucky and Florida. I think you have to look at it as a positive. These two teams are going to be tired and not well rested, and I think that plays out well for the Aggies. So we'll break down whatever happens with this team, with this game on Thursday's episode of Locked On Aggies, and hopefully then we're getting prepared for the final series. So we will see. Fun day of baseball coming up. I know all y'all are excited, and I am as well. But that's going to do it for today's episode of Locked On Aggies. Thank y'all so much for being here every single day. I really, really do appreciate it. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Leave 5 stars on podcast platforms. Helps the show a ton. Really, really appreciate y'all doing stuff like that. Helps grow the show. So thank y'all. Hope everybody has an outstanding rest of their day today. Can't wait to break down this baseball game for y'all tomorrow. Everybody enjoy the ball games, and we will see you tomorrow.